Hi guys, welcome to the very first podcast for ADHD Ireland, hosted by me, Lauren McBride, or Her Thoughts in Bright Colours on Instagram. I hope we're all well. Over the course of this podcast, we're going to discuss all aspects of ADHD in an honest way, as we have lived with ADHD our whole lives. Some of us were diagnosed sooner than later, and some of us aren't diagnosed formally at all. This gives a wide variety of experiences from all different perspectives. Please listen at your own discretion, as we are coming from a place of personal experiences. Some topics may be sensitive to listeners, so please be advised that our opinions and lives may not directly correlate with your experiences living with ADHD. During these podcasts, people living with ADHD or who have experience with ADHD in their familial, platonic, or romantic relationships will be joining me over Zoom. Thank you to everyone who is and will be involved. We couldn't do it without you. I'm super excited to be hosting this podcast. Thank you to ADHD Ireland for giving me the opportunity to do something that I love. And with that, let's chat. Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Let's Chat ADHD. Today we'll be talking about ADHD and sleep. Today I'm joined by Andrew, Nelly, and Shauna. So say hi everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey everyone.
Today we wanted to talk about ADHD and sleep for a few reasons. So sleep accounts for so much of our livelihood as humans. It affects mood, energy level, mental health, appetite, focus, drive, positive outlook, anxiety, and so much more. But with ADHD, we all know a good sleep schedule can be really complex and daunting. But people with ADHD, most people I know anyway, report issues with sleep. It can be insomnia, restlessness, or just needing a lot of extra sleep than others, and extreme fatigue, etc. So we all know from a logical standpoint, as people in this day and age, that a good sleep schedule can be the answer to a lot of our problems in a sense, but it's never that simple with ADHD. So despite us needing routine, we always have struggles with routine, and that can be detrimental to our sleep. And other coexisting issues like mental health issues, high nighttime energy levels, RSD, guilt, and random cleaning and organizing ideas, racing thoughts, and so much more can affect our ability to get to sleep and stay asleep in a healthy routine. So we're here today to talk about topics from the importance of sleep with ADHD, how much we like sleeping, how much we don't like sleeping, or the difficulties around sleeping with ADHD. So to start, I'm just going to put a question out to you guys, whoever wants to go, to start off. So how do you guys feel about your sleep routine that you have currently?
Brutal. Absolutely brutal. Like I don't think it's it's not that I don't want to sleep. I desperately want to sleep, but as soon as I go into bed, get into bed, I start myself down. That's when my brain starts coming up with all these mad ideas. Some of the ideas are brilliant. I just think I can conquer the world and think this is it.
Yeah.
This is my new plan. And then other ideas, you kind of overthink, ruminate, and you can get into kind of the darker side of not being able to sleep because kind of you're desperate to sleep. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've tried many a time to start a sleep routine. I've set my phone on do not disturb countless of times, and I put it to the side. I purposely put it to the other side of the room, even though if I was leaving it downstairs. But you're still lying there twiddling your thumbs, or I know people just say before you go to bed, journal, write out what you think about, put it on paper. But the thing is, I don't know what I'm thinking about. So I have all these mad ideas and these other situations going on in my head. So when I put it to paper, I'm like, what? That's not even English that I've just written. It's jumbled. But I suppose, yeah, it kind of helped that way because I've let everything out on paper. But honestly, if anyone in this episode has solid advice, please give it to me. Because I can go to sleep at 2 o'clock and I'll be awake at 5. I can stay awake till 5 o'clock and I'm awake at 7. It's really rare that I'd get the recommended 6 to 8 hours sleep. And if I do, it's because I've stayed up for 2 days in a row. So
Yeah.
and I don't know if that's an ADHD. I suppose that is an ADHD thing, but I remember having it since I was a kid. That sleep, and it was just during the day I'd be so restless and I'd be desperate to have a nap, but I purposely wouldn't have a nap because I'm up half the night. So I say to myself, I go to bed earlier, but then I go to bed earlier and it's like I shouldn't have done that because I'm more awake. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I completely resonate with that, Shauna. One of the things you mentioned there was purposely not having naps. There's a word for it, and I saw it earlier where you're ignoring body cues. And I feel
Yeah.
like it's noted as such a neurodivergent thing. Where you are fully aware that you have a body cue like that and that you would benefit from naps, but you're too scared that it might affect the rest of your day.
Mm.
So instead of like actively playing into that, you just try and avoid it.
But the thing
Um,
about going for a nap though, it's like it's a sketchy nap. So it's like if I go for a nap, right, am I having 30 minutes? Am I having 30 hours? So it's kind of like, is it worth taking this nap? Or is
I
it
know.
worth staying awake? Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but when you do the nap, you don't know whether you're going to wake up not knowing where you are and hating everything, or whether you're going to
Mom,
feel
where's the school
rejuvenated.
bus?
Literally, what year is it? And you actually feel the fatigue that you feel
Yeah.
when you wake up from that is unshakable.
You feel worse sometimes after the nap,
Yeah,
sometimes. And it's kind of, you're reminding me now of some of my different sleep experiences. But like one of the things that I can remember a couple of years ago, um, sometimes if I just literally maybe fall asleep on the couch, and then like I just wake up and I'd have a very dry mouth and different things like that. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened to me recently. But there was kind of more recently, I can remember like on a Sunday, you'd be always doing things and stuff like that, like um, or at least for me, I'd be out, and when I get to about 4 or 5 o'clock, I'd just be knackered sometimes. And again, it was this thing of like it's too early to go to bed at like 5 o'clock for me. And then there's a few other things I wanted to do. And there's just this one day where worked out really well for me, where I literally just put an alarm on my phone for 45 minutes, and then I went to sleep. Like I went for a nap. It was really a power nap, as a lot of people say. And I went to sleep for 45 minutes, woke up. So I didn't have that worry of like sleeping for 3 hours and then, waking up at 9 and then you've slept and you can't go back to sleep because and it worked perfect for me at that time. And I was like, it's always been in my mind to try it out the next time. Because like went to sleep for 45 minutes, woke up and I had my energy back and exactly what I needed. So that was good maybe on the power napping side. But um Shauna, one of the things that I'd love to, I don't know if it would work, but I'm definitely kind of like to sometimes give advice, suggestions, just even on the potential that they might
I'll
work.
take anything.
Yeah. Um,
me too.
is, I have a background in creating apps and design in
Okay.
general. And one of the key principles, that they talk about in design that's very good is to try focus on understanding what is kind of like the root cause of the problem. Now, look, I know it's difficult, but in so many different scenarios and different things, you're not just in creating apps across the world in so many different areas. It's kind of like trying to look into the root cause, uh, is could be one good approach, and then from there you might start to kind of like discover things, a bit like an
Mm.
archaeologist a bit, where you start to kind of scrape the surface a bit. And then from there, you might be able to come up with some ideas and stuff like that. But I think as in some cases, we are looking for things, we are looking for solutions, and people were constantly being given ideas and advice and solutions, but sometimes if the solutions are maybe for the wrong, they're not the right solution because they're not kind of addressing the right problem or the core issue, they won't work. So kind of what I'm saying is,
Yeah, I find like most of my motivation comes out at night time. Like I found myself cleaning
Yeah.
my room at 3 o'clock in the morning the other day. Like I wasn't just picking stuff off the floor. I was full on moving everything, putting my clothes away. Like
Formatting it.
oh, like all my energy comes out during the night, and then during the
Yeah.
day I am I'm an antichrist. Like there's no looking at me. And then as soon as I get myself into bed, I stop myself for an hour, and then I'm like, right, get the hoover out, let's go. It's 12 o'clock at night. I cannot be hoovering my room. Like, it's just, it probably is a case that there is one specific thing. I actually don't know, but I've always been like that.
Yeah, I think the high energy levels at night are such an ADHD thing.
Oh, yeah, all the ideas come out. Like, I'm nearly writing a book
yeah,
half the time. I'm sitting there full on
Yeah.
typing things, thinking, this is it now.
I'd be similar as well, in terms of over the last, you could say now like 7 years or so, again, through my experience of like coding and creating apps, I just found that one of the parts of the day, which what I like to code and stuff like that, is like after 9 o'clock at night and stuff like that, like
Yeah.
um up until, yeah, now maybe like up until 1 or 2, because sometimes
Late
uh,
enough though.
yeah, like because after about 12, I do feel my kind of cognition and my kind of focus kind of tapers off, but I definitely do feel more energy after night at night. But then I'm kind of concerned that like sometimes, if I start staying up quite late, even though it feels right to me, it kind of feels like it maybe messes up the next day. And but I think maybe the idea there for me is just to see, well, going to bed later, how can I set myself up for the next day to have a more of a consistency, to like maybe I just start
Yeah.
my days later, but it's kind of, still trying to find the right balance.
It's really difficult as well with that because the world goes from early until like 9 or 10 in terms of where I guess society has its productivity and expectations. And then if we are night owls or we're more productive at night, we're not really fitting into the society expectations there. Like it's difficult because in a perfect world, we could definitely just get up later and stay up later. But what about work? What about seeing friends? What about that sort of thing? So that's what I find difficult about it because then I feel guilty when I'm sleeping in,
Yeah,
staying up late because I'm missing people and like I'm answering emails at 9 o'clock at night and it's not conducive to like regular hours of other
Hmm.
people. I don't know if
yeah,
you guys have experienced that, but it's tough because if it was just a case of individual preference, it'd be okay. But
yeah.
like work is the hard one.
One thing just on exactly that point, which is interesting, is that I started using the Inflow app.
Oh, I have that.
Yeah,
Oh,
I find it fantastic. Like
mm.
I find it so good, like the information they give out. But you may have then came across on one of their kind of modules, when they do talk, they mention sleep, and they themselves have ADHD, or they're like experts in it. And one of the things that they say is, yeah, we people with ADHD are more common to want to work late at night, but he was just kind of making the reference to say, even though and I guess we have to again take a balance here. He said, even though it feels right and good, sometimes it might be a bit more difficult, but you actually, if you can get into the routine of get it earlier in the morning, sometimes that could be uh counterintuitively better. So I'm still trying to discover that part.
Like
Uh
forcing yourself to get up early, even though you
Yeah,
didn't go to bed like
his
early.
point was being that
I do that.
we
Yeah,
have a natural thing to just focus at night and stuff.
Hmm.
It's like if you can try and get yourself into an early morning routine, you may find it actually it's better, even though it's a bit hard to start off.
Yeah.
Um, and like for me, that sometimes can be handy, sometimes because at least in the morning when you get up, you have your things done. Whereas,
Mhm.
if you go throughout a day and there's, once you leave the door, there's any number of things that can happen. And, by the time you get to the evening time, if your plan was to like do some important work and you have no energy, sometimes it doesn't work out, at
Yeah.
least having it in the morning is good.
I
Yeah.
love that operative electric word that Lauren used about our sleep routines, which presupposes that we're already on top of that kind of thing, which isn't necessarily true for me. One of the solutions, well, okay, for me, I wake up like this, always. Because the Ferrari brain is just running through the night. And then when I wake up, it's in absolute panic and terror. And I know that that is a condition of the way that my ADHD manifests, is it's been going and going and going. So when I wake up, I don't wake up. I think one of the questions was about waking up rested, or how it works for you, or the terror of trying to sleep with all of these thoughts racing in on you, and
Mhm.
knowing that there is this world that has expectations, like waking up on time. And I've spoken in other podcasts about my deep fear of sleeping through an alarm,
Yeah.
because of the efforting that it takes to just go into that sleep state when your thoughts are racing as they do. I love what Andrew had said about maybe feeling that some of the tasks get done throughout the day before the excitement of the evening of like, oh right, as Shauna said, I can now save the world, I can write a novel, I can put away all of my clothing. I'm so incredibly organized now at the precisely dark playground time, right? At the time that is going to interrupt my workflow. And another part of the question that Lauren asked was about our rejection sensitivity.
Mhm.
And so when we're trying to get to sleep and we know that there is a world out there of work, and that we're not conforming to what is going to be most advantageous as a productive member of society and the workforce, I think that the anxiety kind of triplicates on itself. It's just like, okay. And so if I get into that state of trying to get to sleep, and I really love the dark months for that sake. Like, I cannot sleep if the sun is up at 10, or sorry, is still up at 10 at night, then I'm not going to be sleeping very well, but I might be
Yeah.
productive. So one of the hacks that I've learned, just to just to be bizarre for anybody listening, is to get up on a different kind of schedule. For me, I go to Ireland at least 4 times a year, but I keep myself on that schedule in December, so that at 7 o'clock it's midnight, and I'm like, right, I've earned it. And then I can wake up at 2 in the morning, like just hours before the sun comes up. It's 8 a.m. It's fantastic. It's really fantastic for me, but I don't recommend it for everyone. My sister lives in Japan, so you can do the 14 hours. You could just choose a buddy on some other continent, maybe. with people working remotely, maybe that works. But I just wanted to mention the expectations that kind of go into, or the way that I'm incredibly hard on my racing mind trying to get to sleep. And so then
Yeah.
that will often result in the kind of waking that isn't restful, it's just panicked. Or
Mhm.
how long it starts to, I'd love to hear from others about the groggy morning period, or like the use of caffeine, or how how diesel needs to be ignited. Like, how does it work for you, lads? Like, how do you do it? Of like, is there this long period of waking up? Do you wake right into it? Like as far as sleep goes, there's a lot of ambitious things in the question, so we'll get to them one by one. But I really want to know if people, how they wake. Is it a really slow start? Is it instantaneous?
Well,
I know when I wake up, it's not a jump out of the bed moment. Like I physically, when I wake up, I still need another hour of, right. I start like lying in the bed and I kind of have to go, right, what do I have to do? What needs to be done? And then bring the dog for a walk. So I know I have to physically bring the dog for a walk because you'll have my head tormented if I don't. So that kind of gets me out of bed.
Yeah.
So I find if I'm not saying give yourself a reason to get out of bed, but I mean if you have like a pet or you know you have to go to, even if you know you don't have to go to the shop, just tell yourself you have to go to the shop and buy a feather bar. Something simple.
Accountability,
Yeah, just
even fake.
even like just to move the hoover from one room to the other in the morning. Something
Yeah.
stupid that you know
Mhm.
it's not even worth it, but give yourself that kind of, right, well I have to get up. And then by then you're up and anywhere, so you might as well stay up.
Yeah. What I do on weekdays, and I need to do this, I'm going to say first, fortunately, I say probably very fortunately, I don't really have an issue in going to sleep or maintaining sleep. I'm very lucky on that side. I do have the thoughts and a lot of ideas come late at night, but fortunately, I try to go to bed between 11 and 12 or so, and I'm very fortunate that I can, like, within 20 minutes I can go to sleep. So I'm sorry if people are becoming very envious, but my kind
Oh
of
yeah.
my maybe somewhat of the difficult side is the morning, but again, I've kind of found some really good tips that have been very helpful for me. One of them, which I have to do, is it's more so on the weekdays because the weekend is a different kind of schedule. But weekdays when I'm working, I have to wake up early around 7, and I may not have I may stay up too late the night before, so I'm maybe tired in the morning, quite tired. And what I have to do is put the phone away from my bed because I put the alarm on my phone. So the alarm wakes me up. But if it's in my hand or anywhere near, I'll just like switch it off straight away. But it's the act of
Blame
me.
it out the window.
Yeah,
Gone.
good thing I've never done that before, but that could have been the thing. But I mean like putting it away on a table where I have to get up and switch off the alarm. But then that's not enough. The next thing I have to do is literally go to the toilet and just sit on the toilet because, which sounds funny, but it's true. It works, and
Is
it's
it the
something I need to.
cold?
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
No, it's just literally because, and
They
I've done
say
this.
that they say if you go to the toilet during the night, or what did they said that there's a difference between when you go to the toilet during the night and then that toilet moment during the night where you're awake. So they say go to the bathroom with your eyes closed, you're still asleep, and then you won't wake back up. Clever thinking that. Just that feeling your way against the wall to go toilet during the night if you don't want to wake up.
I'm like a bullet at night. I don't know. I don't sleep. I don't sleep when I sleep. I don't know how to describe it, but my head, like, so I'll be like asleep, but I'm definitely just lying there daydream thinking. So then when I need to go to the bathroom, it's always at 3 and 5. And it's not even really that I need to go to the bathroom. So I shoot awake. It's like clockwork. And then I'm up at 5. So even if I'm going to the bathroom, my eyes closed like this, I'll be wide awake. Like the second I wash my hands, that's it. So I don't know about you guys, but that's just, even if I tried to like get back to sleep once I'm up standing, there's no way.
Even splashing cold water on your face. I do find that if I wake up early, I've purposely woken up early and I'm at that, when you wake up but you're just like, oh, my eyes are burning. So
Yeah,
just splash cold water on your face. Like it's not nice. I hate it. It's
it's
one of them
not.
sensory
Yeah.
issues as well. I hate
Yeah.
water near me, but I know if I have to do it, it'll wake me up.
I think that's a great idea. It's got to be painful though.
Oh yeah, like it's like you're cursing your own self, thinking this is just ridiculous. But I find if I just get big gulp of it in your hand, like, and just whack it in your face, and you're like, right, I'm up now.
Yeah, I'm like that. The second I shower, I'm like that. And I've cold
Yeah.
showers. But I don't know. I definitely think this is just purely an ADHD thing, but the sensory overload in the morning is so painful that I try and avoid showers in the morning. I always do them at
Yeah.
night,
Yeah.
or I do them at like 12 o'clock in the day after I've done all my morning routine because I'm actually like, it's agony.
Mhm.
So the splashing the water would work. But
Like,
how
I
do you
can't, I'm
convince
like
yourself
that.
to do that?
Oh no, I can't stand water near me in the
I think I
morning.
cry.
Like, I do be dipping my finger in the at it, like, just a little tip
Do
there.
it. Do it.
Maybe we talk about being like kind to ourselves in these, because I mean I've spoken elsewhere about how in college, being so afraid of sleeping through class, I would put a radio station of hot new country, like things I would never want to hear, with a bit of fuzz on the clock, on the radio alarm. I would put it far across my dorm room with obstacles, so that I had to get out of bed for the sheer embarrassment of the noise and the content. And that,
Sorry
like,
about that.
and like, have to avoid whatever obstacles I had put there, so that I really was aware. And I would wake up hating life. I mean, like, that's a good thing for me to have if done something that worked. But I want to talk about, now that I've connected with ADHD Ireland, I always hear such lovelinesses to do to oneself. And that was something that I did that worked, but was really a great way to set my mood wrongly as a way of
Yeah.
waking. Because I think with every job I've ever had, or every situation, I need to wake up hours before I'm asked to do something. Like, hours. I think it takes more time for me to just adjust. I
I'm
know
the
some
same.
people who can get to work, even if they have a walking commute, or a bus ride, or what have you, that they can wake up 15 minutes before they have to be at their desk.
I don't
That is
understand people that can
not
do that.
my brain.
Yeah.
That is not my brain. I would wake up at 5 to work at 9. I mean, like, I don't
Same.
care. I need so much time. And splashing water in my face would be something that worked. But does anyone have I know that this is, again, that radioactive word, a routine that you find is a really kind way to do it? I've tried a happy light. Go for it. Yeah, Andre,
I
I'd love
do.
to hear.
I do. And I'm very delighted to have found this. And it's kind of very smart, at least for me. It made sense for me. So again, like maybe a year ago, like previous, because it's only in the last year I started doing this. But the thing was, I didn't like being woken up by a normal alarm. Like, it's the alarm is on my phone, but by the normal, like, ringing. Yeah, like I didn't like the kind of being
Don't.
kind of shocked awake at all. So what I did was, I have two alarms. One alarm is like a little bird kind of chirping, kind of, or it's
Lovely.
just really subtle. And what it does is, it goes off for 2 minutes, but it kind of gently kind of gets louder. So really what it's doing is it's gently kind of waking up your subconscious, or your mind, at least for me. It gently wakes me up, and then after 2 minutes, and I've actually, at this stage, then the second alarm, which is more kind of an alarm, goes off, because like I do need to kind of like a fail safe. But I've really enjoyed that. And I often now, I get up like after a minute and 50 seconds before the other one goes off. But that is one tip for myself I found very handy. And as I said, that is just setting off one that gently wakes you up first over a course of like 2 or 3 minutes, and then it'll kind of start to go off then.
I want to plug the app Sleep Cycle in there for what you're saying. That's the only time I've ever experienced good sleep, and I keep undownloading it to make room for my photos. But it's like that with the 2 minute thing. And it starts with like gorgeous piano and it goes really quiet to really, well, not really loud, but normal alarm tone. And
Yeah.
it might, sometimes it takes 4 minutes for me to wake from it, but the better, like you feel so much better.
Yeah, me too.
Who gave you the tip for that, or did you just discover it yourself?
I just came up with it, I think.
Love that.
Yeah, like I think I kind of forget, but I think it might have just been out of my discomfort for that kind of shock sake when you wake up.
Yeah.
And as I said again, I kind of noticed this with a few different things, is that I'm maybe doing this for the last year. So again, I'm kind of going to say, fortunately, you kind of forget sometimes the times where it was really discomforting. So it's great. It's a positive note to know that there is um kind of it's not permanently, there is ways, there's always ways that you can find solutions.
Yeah, it's very personal, isn't it?
Yeah.
As well. It's
I'm
about
after
learning your way.
asking Santa to get me one of them lights. That wake you up in the morning. Oh, that. Ah, yeah, that looks
The
cool.
sad light.
That's it. I'm after asking Santa. So if we didn't have that under the tree on Christmas Day, I'm getting a hammer.
If he doesn't, I will. I'll get you one, Shauna.
Thanks.
There's like, I get everyone. There's like 5% off if you get loads. I'm so
What
bad
is
for
it?
shopping. Seasonal depression or kind of therapy lamp. So like, so many of us have the melatonin issues and circadian rhythm issues, and the winter seasons make it so much worse. So the therapy lamp it's 1,000 lux at least, so it just lights up your mornings or whenever you need. I use it when I'm doing makeup, and it's just really good
Well, it
for
works.
depression.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for any
Walking around,
listeners that don't know about it.
walking around the house with the bloody thing.
Yeah.
So when you get your Shauna, you'll have to text me that you're using it, because this was something that I thought the extrinsic motivation of talking to other people about, oh, do you use a happy light or a sad light, whatever you call it. And I talked to others and they're like, oh, yeah, it's grand. And then again, that routine thing, I have one. I've used it maybe twice. I don't have the hook on it to like remember when to do it or how to do it, or give myself the 20 minutes in the morning, or I go, oh, it's just November, and then suddenly it's December, right? Or it's just September, I'm not going to, so if you start using it, just send a little text saying, I'm using it. That will remind me.
If the black bags under my eyes are gone by the end of next year, then it's definitely worked.
Fantastic.
I'll let you know.
Thank you.
I am looking forward to using it though, because I know what I think as well. I think a lot of the times there's an interest in the routine. So when you start your routine, right, for 2 days you think this is brilliant, this is after work and I'm loving this. By the third day, I know with me, I don't know about anyone else, but I know with me, by the end of the week of doing the same routine, I'm like, that's grand and all, but can I have something else? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like again, if it's interest, if it's not doing anything for me, like it worked out grand, and then I'm like, right, well, what happens now? Like, do I keep this routine or do I think what Andrew's saying, like it is a good idea to start a proper routine, but like Nelly says, it does work for a while, and then I don't like saying you give up or you're like, fuck this, that can't be ours, but a lot of the times it is the dopamine of, oh my God, I'm after setting up a new routine, a new sleeping routine. This is gonna work. I'm gonna love this. I'm gonna have the best night's sleep ever. It works for about 2 days, and then I find, well, that was great crack and all, but
It's kind of maybe, I don't know what comes to my mind there, is like the course of a river. Sometimes if the river always goes back to its natural course. Is that, it nearly sounds like what you're saying there, is that it was great. You kind of synthetically, if you like, was able to find a route, but then the river always wants to go back to its natural course. I don't know.
Synthetically is a great word for that, actually, because that I think that really gives light to how it's so unnatural to find these ways, and then we do find them, and then it's sustaining them. That's synthetic. So I just think that's a great word. I don't know. I've never heard that used like that, but that might
Well, I
just be
guess
me.
like alarms are, I mean, if you really want to talk deep about it, like, and go back hundreds of years before alarms existed, how did people
I
go to sleep
question
and
that
wake up?
every day. That's
It's
my Roman Empire. That how the hell did people go to sleep and wake up and go to bed at a reasonable hour many, many years ago?
Oh my God.
Well,
The light, maybe? I don't know.
but I'm
People with
saying if we can't
ADHD,
survive with an alarm, if we literally cannot survive with an alarm, how
Yeah.
did people many, many moons ago
I think we've just
go to
been
bed?
accustomed,
How does
we've
society function? Sorry, you've just blown my mind.
I've just opened Pandora's box.
I think that we don't. It's the same kind of wonder that I have over neurotypicalness. Like there have been, as you said about routines, there have been times where I have always woken before my alarm and know that I'm sort of motivated to do something and never need my alarm because I just wake up right before it's about to go off, and maybe I've built those kinds of things. And it used to be before phones and when people would wear watches, I'd depend on other people's watches. I'd just sort of like be aware of what time it was and not even be able to tell you how, right? I'd just be like, oh, okay, because I'm so time blind that I never wore a watch myself, but I'd have to be so hyper vigilant that I really always knew about what time it was because I had such a consciousness of it. I hadn't outsourced my alarm. I hadn't I think that if you talk about like maybe even primary school, if your mom is not waking you up, could you wake up on your own? And I think often I would, because I'm this little ADHD kid, right? I would just be like, good morning. or I'd be a lump, right? So you get into even these routines and patterns when you're excited about something, even if it's unbeknownst to you. And I think that I've developed a lot of things where I've depended on clocks, that even at a time in my life I didn't have clocks so much, right? I knew that I had to be places, and you kind of view time like a kid, you see? And kids don't see clocks in the same way, and yet they get to places. There maybe have more handlers on them, but they have minders. But I think that we do develop something. But that's an interesting question because there have always been people with neurodivergent brains. So how did they exist as gladiators?
I know they relied on the sunset and the sunfall, right? Or sunfall, sunset and the what's the other word?
Sunrise.
That's the one. Sunfall. What? But like, imagine, right? You're doing a day's work, and because it's winter time, it got dark at about 5:30. So what you do? Hit the deck, fall asleep, and then wake back up, and then it's 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And then during the summer, the sun goes down at 10, and then comes back up at 5. So you just go home, go to sleep, and then like what?
Yeah. I'm going to stick something out there that sounds really philosophical, but do you think that some of the reason we can't comprehend that is because society expects us to be so productive all the time to keep it going? Because like, say 100 years ago, yeah, there's the farms and yeah, there's the keeping home and stuff, but it's not like if you're not at this interview at 6 o'clock sharp, you're not going to get the job. You're just going off, not so much fear and more off rhythm. I don't know if that makes sense, but to me, like thinking about how society wouldn't function now would be
Without
different
time.
than how it wouldn't function 100 years ago. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
That's a no.
No, I know. I'm
What
just
I love
trying
about
to I'm trying to put it in my head. No, I know what you're trying to say.
Just
what
mean
I
like everything's appointments now and everything's like this time bang on the dot. And I don't know, like just my interview the other day, if I'd just woken up and been like, the sun is at this point in the sky, I'm assuming it's 11 o'clock. But like
That's what
100
I
years ago.
meant.
It's such a construct for me anyway. I'm so time blind. I have no idea. Like, I don't have an hourglass that turns over and like the time ticking out the way that I'm sure other brains do. And what I loved about your philosophic question, Lauren, is it presupposes a lot of the root causes of my RSD is I believe that other people think that way, that other people have this value over time, because I mean, that I can't even comprehend. Like, I can't even comprehend. And so it becomes a philosophical conversation because I am time blind and because I am also creating the expectations that I think that normal people have because I have a blank
Yeah.
where I'm making up the narrative of what I think other
Mhm.
people like, what their idea, their conception of time is, because I don't have like an hourglass. I don't have a way that time works. We could have been sitting here for the last 100 years. Who knows, right?
The
And so it's all
farms
a
and
construct. It's all a construct.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can blame Sargon or something in Babylonia or something, but like it's a construct. And it when we talk about constructs, we're talking about societal expectations. When we're talking about
Mhm.
societal expectations, we might go into those philosophical places because we're trying to make that up anyway. That's how my deficit of it works, is I'm just, okay, the way that I'm going to perform and get along is maybe overcompensating. And that's why I'm using that term, because I think it is my rejection sensitivity that would make me think this is what people value and I don't know how to do it. Right? This is how people value time. This is how people value productivity. And it's not natural to me. So that's why
Yeah,
I feel like it's
yeah,
connected to my RSD.
yeah. Oh, yeah, it makes sense actually.
On that, Nelly, because it was mentioned at the start and now you're bringing it up again about the RSD. At night, would that be one of the biggest issues for you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Like because of the productivity and I don't know, at the end of the night, I would view the day and the RSD and the societal expectations would keep me up all night because I was like holding myself to such high, like neurotypical standards that I didn't get as much done in the day as I wanted to, or there's still dishes in the sink, or what if someone comes in to my house tomorrow and I haven't hoovered and I don't know, or like that thing I said to that girl 3 years ago that may have been out of line when I didn't mean to, and or I overshared here in this conversation. I don't know, because we're mentioning the RSD of that stuff. Like, I think that would be my main issue with sleep. So I was just putting it out there to see if other people experience the same thing.
I
Um,
experienced that the other day. I was walking the dog and me and my mum bumped into this woman with a dog, right? She specifically said the word, my dog does not like to be touched because it gets afraid. Now, my brain, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I got a brain fart. So I bent down and rubbed the dog and said, who's a good little boy? And my mum was looking at me going, are you all right in the head? So I spent the whole day with that running in my head. I've no idea why I did it. It wasn't that I was doing it because I was doing it to be mean. I would be like, nah, I don't know. I can't explain why I did it. I spent that whole night ruminating over that conversation. It played so much in my head that I went down to my mum the next morning and I was like, man, that was stupid of me to do, wasn't it? And she was like, why, what did you do? It wasn't that big of a deal. But to me, it kept me up. And it's things that don't mean a lot to other people would mean a lot to me. And anyway, like, you know, a little incident, it's not even an incident or an event, it was nothing. And the woman was lovely, like she never stopped me from rubbing the dog, or she never specifically said get away. She just started laughing, and I'm there rubbing the dog's little bum. Oh, you're the best boy ever. But and then I got back up, and then I could see my man, and she was like, she said that the dog didn't like being rubbed, and then I was like, should not have did that. But that's another part of why it's so hard to sleep at night, because you do be up thinking about things that are just ridiculous.
And it's so painful
Oh,
because it literally, with how fast,
runs and
as Nelly calls it, the Ferrari brain, fantastic word for it. It's so fast and so intense, isn't it? That it just keep you up all night. Do you think neurotypical people think of it once and go and just naturally be kind to themselves and then move on? Because I just
Can I
no.
just
Go on.
like I'm just with the thing of neurotypical and neurodiversity, it's only in the last year that I've kind of found out that I most likely have ADHD and autism. I've known I had dyspraxia since I was 5, but it's only in the last year where I really started to become across the year of ADHD and autism. And it's mainly because over the last 5 years I had real difficulties in trying to get a job and keep a job and stuff like that. And that kind of brought me in again to looking into certain things, brought me across ADHD. But just in terms of when we talk about people that are neurotypical, as I said, it's only new to me finding out about the year of neurodiversity. I'm kind of, one of my opinions is that it's nearly, and I'm definitely happy to hear others. It's nearly impossible sometimes to spot someone who's neurotypical because, look, I, there could be people out there who um would be seen to be neurotypical, but they might not actually know that that they have ADHD or different things like that. I mean, and I'm going to kind of give a personal example. It was this year when I was kind of for the very first time getting some sort of diagnosis of to see that I have ADHD, and we were sitting down with this educational psychologist, and it was from me, but my parents were there. And then next thing, even beforehand, the questionnaire that we had that I had to fill out, beforehand, before I met the guy, my mum was like, "Oh yeah, this actually looks a lot like your dad." And then, when we had the conversation with the guy, and my dad and my parents were there, my dad, he kept on looking at my dad, in terms of, it was like kind of setting off alarm bells. So really what my point here is, we had no, like, you wouldn't think, dad now is over 60. He's lived his whole life a lot, not once has ever mentioned that he's ADHD or whatever. Now you can maybe look at some of his experience and from not a diagnostic terms, because I know you have to meet certain diagnostics, but in terms of maybe looking at some life experiences, life trends, you might say, oh, well, that kind of adds up. But what I'm saying here is, it's really difficult to spot someone who's neurotypical, because for certain reasons. And it was even, my parents were initially, they're like, "Oh no, I don't think that you have ADHD," to me. So it's kind of funny, himself, and definitely not saying this in a negative way. This is purely kind of to give context, but it's like him himself, he could be likely have ADHD, but he doesn't realize it. And I could have seen him, or it's so often where you can just assume that someone is neurotypical, but then it's just they may have ADHD, other things, but they're some of their traits may present in different ways, and some of them may not be as intense. So how do you kind of, in terms of identifying if someone is neurotypical, how, if you know what I'm saying, how would you kind of, what would your perspective on that be?
I tell my mum every day she has ADHD.
Yeah.
Like,
Same.
yeah, it's like, I got it from you.
I
Like,
prefer I statements too. That can really, if bells go off with other people, if you can speak from your experience, and solely from your experience, then people don't feel judged or that you're
Yeah.
diagnosing in some sort of way.
Yeah.
But I've found ADHD Ireland to be so much more beneficial than any other uh, side effect of my diagnosis, right? So I keep being able to connect with people who understand my insides, whereas I come from a culture where I think 1 in 10 students have an ADHD diagnosis, like for primary school students. So it's so typical that people don't understand the kind of barriers that I've had my whole life, or the kinds of ways that I have compensated. When I got my adult diagnosis it was like 2014 or something, as an adult, done with school. I mean, I did go on for more school, but done with school, it was like, why would we even care about this if you aren't having any troubles from it, right? And really, there are things that I need to figure out how to live my days really successfully. I don't want to perseverate about relationships with people. I remember years and years ago, I saw a colleague who walked past me and I went, why is she so mad at me? What is going on? And I didn't approach her for maybe 2 weeks. And she said, yeah, I pass you all the time. I thought, our hello is implied. Like, what? Like, what? It wasn't at all a rejecting me thing. But I come from an understanding that if somebody's mad at me, they must be right. And this is talked about in Ned Hallowell's work, that we have so many negative neutrinos thrown at us, the 10,000 pieces of evidence that make us feel like we don't know how to do it. And I thought that my name, my longer name, my fuller name was No Nell, because of how often I heard no, 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 no. And there's so much that I haven't got it right. So if somebody's mad, they must be right, because I don't know what the right course of action is. As I'm impulsive, or then I'm full of regret. And many of these, even just breathing in and breathing out, make it so that I could maybe seek some help or ADHD support. I don't have to live inside of the confusion that I don't really understand what's going on. I can go, oh, right. When I was upset with that, when I was trying to find out what was up with my coworker, it's because I have an imaginative and investigative brain, but it was really focused on something that didn't really need my attention. So maybe I should be like Shauna and save the world and write a book and Hoover my flat. I mean, like, all of these things could be more useful ways of spending my Ferrari brain. But when you don't have a bridle on it at all, that feeling of deadlineless procrastination or malaise can really affect one's overall mental health. So for me, it's not about diagnosing anybody's neurotypical or neurodiversity. It's about, hey, I believe that these conditions have to do with the shape of my brain. What do you do? Right? And if people have gotten to the age of 60 and they're not bothered by some of the side effects of their Ferrari brain, then power to them. But for me, I want to keep exploring. So that's what do others think?
If they've managed to get that this far, I suppose. A lot of the times it's just like, what can I do about it now?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a personal choice, isn't it? To figure out, neurotypical versus neurodivergent. I think everyone like has their own traits and their own ways of managing things. And if people, sorry, there's my dogs. If people get to a certain age and then they're grand continuing without a diagnosis, or they don't have a diagnosis to get, then I think everyone's just got their own styles of coping, don't they? But I definitely don't, to answer bluntly to Andrew, I definitely don't go around with my radar and be like, but what I
Yeah.
do is recognize ADHD in people
Yeah.
and dyspraxia in people and mental health stuff in people, because it takes one to know one a lot of the time, doesn't it? So I 100% go around and quietly notice traits, but don't try and unnotice traits. Like I find myself too much being like, oh, I think they have ADHD, I think they do. So I just don't say it, because otherwise I'd be considering too much on diagnosis. So I don't really think about whether people are neurotypical. ADHD surrounds itself with ADHD a lot of the time. Same with autism. We're all just like this to each other, and we just
Yo!
attract. All of my close friends have ADHD or autism or both. I think that's just the way it is. So I don't really have much chance to be like, oh, that friend's neurotypical, because like all of
Yeah.
them have
I think,
something.
and it wasn't a thing, a kind of talking to you and like being direct. It's more of
Yeah, yeah.
it's my own understanding as well, because it's just it's very interesting to see, to see someone that doesn't have it. Like
Right.
I'm trying to know what someone what it's maybe like for someone that doesn't maybe have some of these concerns, and what do they look like. But at the end of the day, and I think, Nelly, you said this, and I think this is something I've learned a lot from ADHD Ireland, is it doesn't really matter about others, and it doesn't matter about sleep routines or different routines. In term, my point here being, if you can find something that works right for you, that's all that's important,
Mm.
and if I spoke to a lady over the weekend, and she said that her husband lives in the Isle of Man, and they have a little small plane that they fly over and back, and it's like, it's quite unusual, or unique, but I said that, like, she's like, it works for us great, and kind of my point here being that, you know um just look after yourself, kind of, in a way, and what works for you works for you,
One, you're
and
not harming anyone else.
exactly,
Yeah.
Mind your
so,
own
Ruins the
self.
week.
and just, I wanted to say, I'm not going to go off topic and turn this into a podcast about my dad, but just one thought that came up, was that, if we're talking, when we talked 5 minutes ago about, like, what was life like 100 years ago, you know my dad would have came up, in a time, look, 50s and 60s or whatever, where really ADHD didn't exist, in terms of, wasn't talked about. So, there's, it kind of, to bring it back, but we won't. Yeah, I know that we're talking mostly about sleep here today. So, but it's just an interesting side thought.
So what do you all think about the idea that it could be ADHD to sleep and sleep, like depression, sleep, or not have any consciousness about how long you've slept? 14 hours, and it could be like a moment. When Andrew was talking about being able to take naps, I just thought about what an impossibility that is for me. Like, if I
Oh,
go
yeah.
to sleep, I'm I'm out forever. Like, I sleep like the dead. And then also, I have gone for years of my life. I was even a child who would not take naps. I could not take naps. I was like, As far as the hyperactivity part of my ADHD, it is really pronounced, which isn't the case with everybody. So you can have oversleep and you can have undersleep, and it's still the same condition. So what do you think about that?
Yes, this time it's just personally, I know for me, I said it earlier on, personally for me, naps is not even in my vocabulary on a daily basis. There's no
Yeah.
point in me going for a nap. It's not, because I'm either, like I said, I'm either asleep for a half an hour and I'm a grumpy shy, or I'm asleep and I sleep for hours. There's no that medium, and then I do find I have to purposely ignore naps so I can try and sleep during the night.
I don't do naps either. I just do it. I feel guilty the whole time, which is so wrong. But I was literally talking about ChatGPT about this earlier, just which sounds so sad, doesn't it? But I ask it all my questions like that because I only see my therapist once a week, guys. So I was talking, like, asking why when I get less than 8 hours sleep do I feel better than when I get more. So I think that could be an ADHD thing, because actually being slightly, sorry, my dogs, actually being slightly like shocked awake seems to help. But then also I asked it why I feel so guilty having naps. It didn't really have an answer for me ADHD related. It just told me to ask a professional. But I'm the same in the way that naps are just not, I just can't.
Well,
And
the
I'm
nap
wondering,
professor.
right? I
So
don't
we'll
know.
just
I was
start
like,
making up nap professions then and be like, "Hi, Mr. Nap Professor, can you please tell me when I can have a nap, please? Thank you. And how long I should have a nap for?
can you hold my hand at the same time and tell me
Can
that
you
I've
sing me a
done
lullaby,
enough today?
please?" Please.
Literally, like, so it is like so unique, isn't it? Of a thing that we do struggle with naps, but for different reasons. Like, it just seems like we're programmed to not sleep. But my main thing would be guilt. But I just
I
agree with you,
find
Shauna.
as
It's not
well,
even in the
but I do find as well, like, when I sleep and the time that I do sleep and I get in such a deep, one of them deep sleep, I have the weirdest dreams. And they're not dreams that, like, oh, you're running, but you're trying to scream. I dream about people that I haven't seen in years. I dream about places that I wouldn't even know existed. They just come up in my head. I dream about conversations that have never happened and will never happen, believe me. But I do dream about the weirdest thing, because I'm after getting myself into just such a deep sleep from not being able to sleep properly. And then the next day, like after having my deep sleep, the next day, I'm fuming because my sleep is after being ruined by this dream that I didn't ask to have.
So are
Oh,
you saying that the really intense ones come when you're exhausted
when I'm that
from not
tired,
sleeping? Yeah.
yeah, and then you get into, obviously, I suppose deep sleep as in, I can't see myself when I'm sleeping, so I don't know what I'm like when I'm in a deep sleep. But like, th- I know that I'm in a deep sleep because I wake up remembering the dreams that I have, and they're not. They're the weirdest dreams. Like, there's no point me sitting here saying what they're about, because people will be like, "You are right in the head," and I can say, "No, I'm not," because these are not normal. You know what I mean? So I don't. Yeah, maybe
It's
we
definitely
just
an
shouldn't go to
imagination
sleep.
thing. Huh?
Maybe we just shouldn't go to sleep at all.
It's a bit of a stress, isn't it?
Like, I'm stressed about going to
Yeah.
sleep.
Can I cycle back to the start when we were talking about tips, as just to get into that, because we're now like sleep is so bad and I want to add something positive.
Please don't do
As
it.
Andrew was saying, it's definitely about what works for each person, isn't it? So it's not like I'm preaching now on what I've discovered, because
I'm going for the hammer.
still not sleeping, but I do want to put some tips out there that worked for me.
Yeah.
When I was in psych hospital, right, was about the only time I ever had a consistent sleep routine. And that was because in psych hospital, you wake up at 8, I'd wake up 7, just the light coming in, the nurse open the curtains, and then you go to sleep at 10 and there's no one to talk to and there's nothing to do, and half the time you don't have your phone. So that was the only time, like, and I'm not being dramatic, that I had a good sleep routine. But the reason I'm bringing this up, right, there is a reason, is because I never felt better than when I had a good sleep routine. And I'm sure, like I said in the little notes at the start, that's so logical, like, of course. But the things that did for my ADHD symptoms were invaluable. So some of the things that I learned that I took home from hospital and then unlearned because I can't keep them up, but it was good for a while. So just to put them out there, was, like Andrew said, the kind of 2-minute thing. The sleep cycle app was fantastic for that. And then one thing that hugely helped was self-care and like showers or baths before bed, because that is doing something with your hands that's not your phone. Then we all know about the blue light, so that we're not on our phones the whole time. And then exercise before bed, which is, I'm not an exercise person, like, at all, but these were things my psychiatrist like drilled into me, and I hate saying it, but they really worked. So I just wanted to throw in a bit of like advice in there so that it's not all difficult talk, which is so important. But just in case there was anybody listening that hasn't tried any of those things,
Don't be
you
afraid to
know,
have a nap.
don't be afraid to have a bloody nap. There you go. Shauna said it better than I ever could. Yeah. And then journaling, like,
Yeah.
doesn't really work, but what it does work is putting those RSD and those negative thoughts on paper.
Yeah.
And again, I gave this up after months, but it was so helpful. So just in case anyone hasn't tried those things, do you have anything that is like a slightly personal tip that has worked for you to put in place and that might be helpful to anybody listening?
Oh, caffeine as well. Don't drink caffeine at all. No, I'm giving this advice, but I'm not taking
At
it
all?
myself.
I
Like,
hear.
no, I'm personally saying you should
Caffeine
not
has
drink
different,
coffee, but I can because I physically cannot live without it.
How'd you get rid of
but
the
but
how do you
it
get rid of the
it has different
cobwebs?
effects. Sometimes caffeine makes me totally go to bed. Like sometimes it doesn't work for me at all, and sometimes if I have a coffee at 5, there's no way I'm sleeping at 2. I mean, it like a lot of things completely is doesn't seem to have a pattern in me, caffeine.
Yeah.
So yeah, Andrew, what do you caffeine?
Well,
Comment.
yeah, you were like, you can see I'm like getting springing up here. It's very interesting, like, because we're talking about caffeine. I watched a video from Andrew Huberman, who's a neuro biologist. He's kind of a brain surgeon. Now, I'm not, I've watched one video on the topic of kind of neuroscience and ADHD. So I'm definitely not an expert, but I definitely have a great interest. But one of the things he mentioned about ADHD is that in some cases, or for some of the reasons, it's because of it's a lack of dopamine.
Mhm.
And with the lack of dopamine, for some reason, it causes us these different traits of maybe not being able to sleep and all these other positive, negative traits. But he said, with caffeine, when you drink caffeine, it can increase your dopamine. And the point he made was that when you have more of a normal level of dopamine, your ADHD negative traits go down. So actually, he said, in some cases, if you give sweets to a kid, now I know that's more like increasing their blood sugar, that actually has the opposite of effect of what we think giving sugar to a kid. Because it actually, for a kid with ADHD, it actually kind of normalizes their dopamine and all the rest of it. And
That
kind of
makes so much sense.
so kind of what you're saying there, is, and my point here being is, if you have coffee late at night, it may for some reason bring your dopamine to a more of a normal level, and then that allows you to kind of go to sleep or whatever. So I'm kind of just giving bits and pieces here, but I kind of feel it comes back to my point earlier, is sometimes trying to really understand what is the root cause. And that's maybe dopamine, and then you can see, well, there's these different things that we can do to kind of accommodate that. And I think it kind of somewhat verifies when you were saying about your time in the hospital. I would say likely those tips and different strategies are probably well researched, in terms of they
Yeah.
worked because they're well researched.
And here's me being shocked that they worked.
And the number one thing about research is it's investigation, and it is problem. It's kind of understanding the root cause. So it's, that's kind of a thing.
You've
Uh,
actually inspired me to go and just write down just bullet points of the things I'm struggling with sleep, and try
Yeah.
and like
Yeah,
brainstorm
and it's not about looking
root
for the
causes.
solution. It's not about, because we all know, like, there's 1,000 ADHD apps out there. There's 1,000 different tools out there that we've all tried to use. But again, we all know that we just try them and they don't work out. And my point here being, and I think I I'm not trying to preach, or I'm not trying to preach another solution, but I think, the approach of looking for the root cause is good. Is probably, so I'm happy to be able
I'm
to
probably gonna go up the stairs after this now and sit
go
down with a
first
pen and
aid.
paper and be like, number one,
Deadly
number
serious.
two.
It's like therapy
Journ-
that when
Mm.
you
Journaling
find the
is great.
cause.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
journaling.
interrupted.
No, I get interrupted. But okay, so I'm really bad with that routine word, and I had a really fantastic friend, so much that everything that she said, I called them like Church of Stacy, because Stacy knows all sorts of ways about living life, and she would say, make it a thing, whatever it is, make it a thing. So if going to bed is going to be a ritual or a routine, make it like, what kinds of things do you want it to have in it? And like just being able to be so wholesome and so kind about trying to change life in some sort of way was really helpful. So when I, like, under her like good friendship was she really recommends baths, and she recommends baths that have Epsom salt or baking, like sodium bicarbonate, and like that they have a bath bomb in them, or that they have a smell, or they have lavender or something like that, right? So that it's ritualistic. It's not just the chore. And one thing that she had me doing, which I never did before, was like, you brush your teeth, you drink an herbal tea like a chamomile or something, and you have those things. Like me, I've got this great little display case in rainbow of all of the yogi teas, kind of thing, that have the fortune on them, and you just have them before you go to sleep, and you bring your cup into your room, you put your phone in the other room, and you make it all a ritual about how much you deserve some sleep, and like how great you like finding some gratitude at the end of the night, and just like make the whole process kind. You deserve sleep. As Andrew was saying, you got some things off the list today. Herbal tea is nice. You'll have to use the toilet in the morning. It will wake you up. You can trust the process, right? Trust it. And like, build your own ritual. But these were some of the things that she was saying, of like, brush your teeth. You deserve nice teeth. You deserve like a clean body and like nice smells. And all of it is for the luxury of you getting to go to bed. And I'm a teenager at heart. Like, I don't want to go to bed, or I'm in primary school at heart. And so just flipping that script was really helpful in how to get more than 4 hours of sleep, because productivity always made me think, oh, no, I can't sleep. I have to get these things done. Thanks.
Thank you, Nelly. That was gorgeous. As always, really appreciate that. Flipping the script can sometimes be so hard, but you've really put it nicely there, being like, it's the luxury of going to bed. Because that's
student
like
as well.
conditioning, isn't it? What were you saying, Shauna? Sorry?
It's very student the way she explained it. It was
Yeah.
very relaxed, and I was sitting there
Yeah.
going,
I was
"Ah,
like,
I feel
It
great
was like a
now.
passage.
Yeah, I could listen to her.
yeah,
You could do bedtime stories.
Oh my God, yeah.
literally. Hidden talent discovered.
Yeah.
I thought of an idea though. So I was thinking, right,
Go on.
pay yourself to go to sleep.
What if you
Oh
have
my
more-
God. That's like when I was a kid and my parents got me this big Bratz cat for staying in my own bed 7 nights a week when I was really, really small. Like, so
Set up a vault account, set up a vault in a Revolut and pay yourself a fiver to go to bed.
unreal.
And then before you know, by the end of the week, you've saved a few bob. Whether you slept or not, I don't know, but
Enough for a packet of cigs or a lovely Land of Nod lavender sleep spray. That works too, guys. Well, it doesn't work, okay, but it makes you feel very good for going to bed. That's a
Yes,
great
well-
idea, though, Shauna.
Yeah, pay yourself.
Yeah, we'll try that out.
You don't sound convinced.
No, that's not. I can see his face and he's like, yes. I'm like, it sounded a lot better in my head. I'm so sorry.
How about we could try it out? You can pay me. Well, I don't have any problems, but I was going to say
Yeah,
you
yeah,
pay me
I-
to go to sleep.
And then you pay me.
And
We'll
we can
set up
create
a
like
group of GoFundMe's.
a sleep
Five,
fund.
I will be bouncing around the whole group, the whole bloody week.
We could
But-
do like Big Brother with the cameras watching us 24/7. Everyone make sure we sleep and then they just keep throwing the euros. Sorry,
Um,
Andrew, interrupted.
Sleepover.
Going
No,
to
not
Laura's
at all.
house.
I don't want to disrupt the flow of this new $1 billion sleep company.
Don't knock it, I'm telling you now.
There could be an app for it.
No, I'm excited.
By the end of this year, we've come up with a business. Nelly has come up with story times in the most student voice. And we've established that we can sit down and figure out why we can't sleep by doing it. What was it you written? Root cause.
Root cause.
Root cause. We can call it root cause.
That's $1 million idea right there.
Sorry.
I love how when it gets to time, guys, we've always somehow literally at exactly time to end the podcast. We always start
Well,
going
before
down
we
to the
end the
jokey
podcast,
part.
before we end the podcast, and
Yeah, don't worry. I was going to let you add things.
I've been meaning to trying to get this in for the whole podcast, but no, it's coming to the end. I was going to say, although I may not myself, and I'm very fortunate right now to have issues with sleep, my girlfriend Judith, who's Mexican and lives in Mexico, she struggles with sleep. So I would definitely love in any way I can to be able to help her and to support her to try and improve her sleep. So I'll just say she'll
Hi,
likely be listening to this. So I'll say hi, Judith. Hola.
Little shout out. That's so cute.
Yeah. Buenas noches.
Hello.
So there you go. I just wanted to fit that in.
Ah,
That's so
lovely.
sweet. The logo will be a tree of life. You've heard it. Oh, I shouldn't have read that out loud.
Spilling our secrets and Lauren's like, and by the way.
I did that before. Someone told me not to put something in the chat and I was like, blah, 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 reading it out. Anyway, we'll cut that bit.
ADHD.
So, yeah, I think we've got a pretty comprehensive view of the fact that we're all still learning, which is fantastic. That's the whole point of these, is to get chatting to each other, isn't it? And figure out things that we couldn't have figured out. I have now learned that I'm going to view bedtime as a luxury. I'm definitely going to journal more and maybe reduce caffeine and cigarettes. But yeah, I hope you guys all learned something valuable today. It was lovely to chat to you. Does anybody else have any tips or tricks they want to add for the last part? That's usually where there's silence. That's good. We're all talked out and exhausted.
Yeah, I'm a bit kind of sleepy. I'm a bit like, this is
Oh, Get
I
a
don't
nice
mean
nap.
like you're not putting me to sleep. I'm gonna go to bed, but do you know what I mean? Like I'm relaxed. This is nice.
Few hot water bottles and what's it called? Cozy anthropomorphism, where you surround yourself with warm lights and cozy things, and it's meant to psychologically help you sleep. So we can do a bit of that, and the exhaustion of socializing should help you sleep, Shauna. It won't help me
I
sleep.
need about 2-3 days now because I've already spoke to people. I met a friend earlier on. Then I'm doing this.
Lovely.
So I'll need 2-3 days now. Take a step back.
Did the doggies have a nice run?
Mm-hmm.
Did Gaston get frustrated?
As always.
Yeah, bit like myself. Anyway, thanks so much, guys, for coming on. I will stop recording now. Thank you for listening to Let's Chat, ADHD Ireland's first podcast hosted by me, Lauren McBride. You can find us on Instagram at ADHD Ireland, and I'm on there too, at Her Thoughts in Bright Colours. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we'd love to hear your feedback and opinions on the topics covered each week. Sending positive vibes until we chat again.